And did you enjoy President's Day? Is there anything better than a 3-day weekend in February when it's 10 degrees out and you've been stuck home for 11 months with a pandemic? I know I love President's Day weekend. Mark Norman tweeted, if the vaccine doesn't work, he's going to try Gorilla Glue. Mark also said, the only slashing you don't hear about in New York City subways are the fare prices. Tim Dillon says, I want higher minimum wage, but I also want burgers to drive themselves to my home in a Tesla. And Twitter account All Pro Line says, Tom Brady got laid off and moved to Tampa. He has a baby mama. He just walks into random houses. He gets so fall down drunk he throws stuff out of his boat. He's just one pet alligator away from being the perfect Florida man. Thought to do something a little different. The other night I was on Twitter and I saw hashtag add fish to a movie was trending. Here you go. Ready? Desperately seeking sushi. The world according to Carp. Goldfish Finger. The man with the goldfish gun. The Codfather. Showgills. Desperately seeking salmon. Again, hashtag add fish to a movie. A starfish is born. Catch me if you can. That might just win right there. Being John Malkovich. Scent of a fish, yuck. Hashtag add fish to a movie. Suicide Squid, Shark Shank Redemption, and Two Fish Called Wanda. I think that's so clever. Hashtag add fish to a movie. Two Fish Called Wanda. From The Guardian, the BBC intends to give the nation, not my nation, your nation. I live in the United States of America. We won't get this, but it sounds cool. The BBC intends to give the nation some lockdown laughs later this month with a 3-week comedy season called The Festival of Funny. That is a terrible hack name. The Festival of Funny features stars including John Cleese, Izzard and Stephen Fry, as well as new talent such as Rose Matafeo. The corporation, so British, is to air new comedies across radio and TV, including a live stand-up show every night for a week on BBC Two, featuring established names such as Joe Brand and Jason Manford, alongside up-and-comers. The BBC's comedy controller, Shane Allen, said, we need comedy to help pull us out of this. It's the British sense of humor that gets us through the darkest times in life. There will be Radio 4 stand-up shows from Eleanor Tiernan, Anna Morris, Stephen Buchanan, Patrick Keelty, and Jacob Hawley. This yank went 0 for 5 on those names. Radio 2 will air comedy pilots from the Delightful Sausage duo, Christopher Cantrill and Amy Gledhill. Hey, we learned about the Delightful Sausage on Saturday when we did the Guardian's Things to Watch in 2021. See? Aren't you glad you listened Saturday? Radio 2 will air comedy pilots from the Delightful Sausage, Tommy Tiernan, Welsh comedian Kiri Pritchard McLean, and a series about Imperial India called The Empire. Remember Shane Allen, the BBC's comedy controller from like 30 seconds ago? He said, we could just wait and sit for the world to tilt around to its right axis again, or we can crack on. It's hard, but it's public service, isn't it? People have paid the license fee, and we've got to cheer people up as long as everyone's safe according to the guidelines. Allen said there could be a lost generation of comedians if we don't keep the wheels turning and give people stage and camera time to develop their careers. The Washington Post asked John Oliver, hey, John Oliver, what's going to be your approach on Trump now? Do you want the show to lean into anything he does? Or is your belief that we'll be giving him what he wants? John said, that was always the internal calculation made with him as president. He's a guy who wants attention more than anything else. So it's working out. When is it irresponsible to give him that attention? And when is it actively irresponsible to ignore him? We managed to keep the body of our show intact from him most of the time. We spend weeks on our main story, so for us there were key calculations in, do we still want what we're planning to do or just respond to what he's done? The majority of the time we were like, let's keep going. I'm hoping he'll be a significantly diminished figure. I hope that both as a human being and as someone who writes comedy. John says the idea that late night wants what Trump provides is a myth. John sounded somewhat insulted by the insinuation and said, wow, how little do you think of me? Because partly it comes from, it must have written itself. Really? You think that? You try injecting poison in your body every week and get a joke on the other side that Twitter hasn't already come up with. The happiest I was at the end of last year when we finished our final show and started working on the new list of shows, and it was great to be able to think about wonky stories. Some of those stories will be the long gestating problems the virus has shown a spotlight on that have been ignored for a long time. John says human history has shown we're pretty adept at choosing to forget about them again as soon as it's convenient, so I think the virus will be an interesting hook into some interesting stories this year. On John's show Sunday night, he actually talked about how the next pandemic could be worse, saying if we're not careful, the next pandemic could be even worse. See, I didn't lie. We have to resist the urge to get back to normal. If you're an HBO viewer who wants to watch a British person do something hot or interesting, switch over to Netflix for some Bridgerton. He said, lots of jizzing and blankets on that show. However much you expect, there's significantly more. No projections from John on how 2021 will go, saying it's so hard to project because to go back a year is to go back to a different world. I haven't seen my staff in nearly a year. I haven't heard human laughter since mid-March. The thing I can't imagine is being in front of an audience. I can't imagine how that's going to feel, but it's so hard to project what the other side of this will look like, especially because systematically and politically, a return to normal is not what we should be aiming for. Is he ready to give up on 2021 yet, or give it another month? Give it a chance. If you'd asked me that about 2020 this time last year, I'd probably said, yeah, maybe. But I wouldn't have known why yet. It's the finding out why you're angry at a year. That's the joy, isn't it? Did you guys watch SNL this weekend? I thought it was the worst SNL, definitely of the season. And maybe, I'm trying to think, it was bad. Like, not funny at all. End to end, nothing. And the crowd was bad. Even Jost and Che seemed struggling. They weren't getting any laughs. Just a really flat episode. From the New York Post, there's a new voice saying, stand clear of the closing doors if you're on the New York City subways. One of those new voices, Jerry Seinfeld. Can I tell you something as a New Yorker who rides the subway? We don't want any of that. Just everybody shut up. I don't even like they have nice, clear announcements. I'm from the 80s. A subway announcement should sound like this. You should have no idea what's being said. That's New York City. New York City is being ruined by this stuff. Sorry, Jerry. Hey, don't forget to vote on the Instagram page at Daily Comedy News for this week's Comedy's Top Dog. Defending champion Bill Burr is taking on John Mulaney. Mulaney is out to an early lead. Fashion Lurker commented John Mulaney. Katua Dog commented John Mulaney for a 4-bagger. Tatiana Morales is tired, but Tatiana Morales commented Mulaney. Raindrop 723, John Mulaney. Fatima F.A.H, John Mulaney. John Mulaney. Early lead. You can vote on the Instagram page at Daily Comedy News. You'll find a post with a matchup. Comment, and I'll shout you out on the podcast. The AV Club did not enjoy this Kevin James The Crew thing. Now, I have a question for Netflix. Why did you guys wait till Monday to drop this? I was actually in the mood for something mindless on Sunday, and I would have watched Kevin James in The Crew. But now on a Monday, I got stuff to do during the week, guys. Maybe next weekend. But they say The Crew just isn't funny. Yes, comedy is subjective, and one's preference for the jokes here is going to depend on how much they enjoy this particular type of sitcom, a hyper-specific genre in and of itself to begin with. But the writer's idea of what separates the young from the middle-aged or the working class from the corporate world feels, for lack of a better word, basic. In one episode, the crew's disgusted by Catherine restocking the break room with healthy snacks instead of junk food. Another plot point finds the team members incredulous that their long-running steak sponsor has been replaced by a company specializing in meat substitutes. There are cracks about the strangeness of any restaurant that isn't the local bar, the predictably named Pit Stop. There are quips about Instagram. Whether or not the jokes land is irrelevant. There's canned laughter. Ugh, a laugh track that stays cranked up to 11 at all times, as if attempting to drown out any dissenting opinions. Boy, doesn't this make you want to watch The Crew starring Kevin James on Netflix? Aside from the show's humor, says the AV Club, so much of the crew's dramatic tension, what little there is, draws from the threat of unwanted change around the workplace, and that clashing viewpoints of Kevin and Catherine will soon turn ugly, because this is, once again, a laugh-tracked multi-camera sitcom. There isn't a whole lot of room for evolution. The format has always been custom-made for repetition, allowing audiences to experience the same emotional sensations week in and week out, or in the case of Netflix, in one greedy binge. Now, sure, that gets to exist, but Amazon canceled Truth Seekers. Truth Seekers was awesome. This was the Nick Frost, Simon Pegg ghost hunting comedy series. I don't know how to describe it, but it was on Amazon. It was a lot of fun. Nick Frost said, "It's a massive kick in the willy." Sadly, Truth Seekers will not be returning for a second season. Truth Seekers has not been renewed, which is a massive kick in the willy for me. We really put our all into this, our heart and soul and blood in some cases. Said it not come back is really sad for us. It's a shame. I think we had lots of lovely ghost stories to tell, stories that will now remain untold. If you liked the show, thank you. And if you didn't, are you happy now? Happy now? Yikes. Hey, remember Munawar Faruqui? That's the comedian who was doing jail time for some jokes he didn't do. From NDTV, he posted a video on his YouTube channel on Sunday after spending nearly a month in prison. He put up a 10-minute clip titled Munawar Faruqui Leaving Comedy, but then says, "I want to apologize to my fans. There's a typo in the title. Munawar Faruqui is not leaving comedy. Munawar Faruqui is living comedy. I can't quit. If comedy keeps me alive, those who hate, we will win them too. Every artist doesn't have to face this challenge. I have to. There may be thousands of reasons to leave, but there is one reason to stay." His YouTube channel has 616,000 subscribers, slightly more than mine. Meanwhile, in Canada, where they apparently don't like the show, number one country for listeners for the show, United States of America, makes sense. Number two, the UK. Number three, India. Canadians, what's up? And why am I asking you? Because you're not listening, so you're not going to answer. It's a court case that was supposed to be heard yesterday. The BBC explains a decade ago, as part of his stand-up act, a Canadian comedian began... I like how that rhymes. Canadian, it doesn't rhyme, but I like the rhythm of a Canadian comedian. It's just fun to say. A Canadian comedian. You say it. Ready on three. 1, 2, 3. Didn't that feel good? A Canadian comedian began telling a joke about a disabled young singer. That's how the joke ended up in front of the country's top court. Jeremy Gabriel was born with Treacher-Collins syndrome. It's a genetic disorder that can affect facial bone structure and, in his case, cause severe deafness. Despite this, he fulfilled his dream of becoming a singer, performing for public figures from Celine Dion to Pope Benedict. Meanwhile, in 2010, Mike Ward, known for his dark and edgy comedy, put together a 90-minute stand-up act. Alongside the thorny issues of race and religion, it targeted what he called the sacred cows of the province's celebrity star system, people who were, in his view, for various reasons, too rich, too powerful, and the celebrity star system saw them as out of bounds for mockery. As part of the show, Ward took aim at, among others, Celine Dion. He also takes on Gabriel in that set, who then become in the press known as Petite Jeremy. On the page or in court documents, says the BBC, stripped of Ward's delivery, it can be hard to see why the audience laughs, but they do, and heartily. Ward chides them. I didn't know how far I could go with that joke. At one point I said to myself, you're going too far. They're going to stop laughing. But no, you didn't. The show was performed live over 200 times between 2010 and 2013 with copies sold online. Gabriel came across Ward's jokes about him in 2010. At the time, Gabriel was 13 years old and starting high school. He said, I couldn't go a day without being told one of his jokes. He felt targeted due to his disability and began to withdraw socially and thinking seriously about suicide. But the BBC says Gabriel's family never reached out directly to the comedian about it. Then in 2012, the family heard Ward on a popular news program discussing the joke. Court documents state he was comparing himself to a cocaine addict, saying he needs to make jokes that go too far. That's when the family filed a human rights complaint. The Quebec Human Rights Tribunal found that Ward exceeded the limits of freedom of expression and that his joke was discriminatory on the basis of disability. Ward appealed. The Court of Appeal mostly upheld the tribunal's ruling in a split decision and awarded Gabriel 35,000 Canadian dollars. The court's, quote, intention is not to restrict creativity or censor artists' opinions, but comedians, like any citizen, are responsible for the consequences of their words when they cross certain lines. Ward said he is refusing to pay the damages, quote, not for myself, but for the young comedians, the comedians of tomorrow. The case was scheduled to be heard yesterday. I'll let you know how it goes. That is your daily comedy news for today. You can follow the show on Spotify, getting mighty close to 1,000 followers. Appreciate it. Or follow on Apple or wherever you get your shows. If you like what I do, you can buy me a coffee. Ooh, the ice has melted. You can barely hear that. Can you guys even hear that? So I switched. So my scale is broken and telling me that I put on 8 pounds, which clearly isn't true. But just in case it's not broken, I switched from caramel to vanilla this morning on the iced coffees, and vanilla sucks. Kind of want to go back to the caramel flavor. But if you want to contribute to my fatness, please feel encouraged to buymeacoffee.com/daily comedy news. You can throw $5 in the tin. And again, once I get to 100 donations, I will do an entire bonus episode where I only say nice things about Adam Sandler. You know you want to hear that. All right, I'm out. Catch you tomorrow.